All right, we're back with our COMP228, week 12, lesson 12, part 3 of a broadcast, and looks like the broadcast will actually work. Where last we left off, we were doing still working with JDBC in our program. We got in our movie list controller, we ended up creating our insert function, our insert methods right here, where we can insert one row, but we haven't tested it yet. And of course the way to test that would be to go to our program class, which is our driver class. And what we've done is we've commented out the read, and we're going to start putting in the stuff for in our program class for the rest. Okay, so let's see how that's going to look. Going to make sure that I have everything lined up for you. And yes, okay, good. So it's a system, a series of printouts again, right? So again, you may want to try and do this inside its own, another class that does this kind of stuff, where you call up some kind of menu, like I kind of mentioned before to some of you. So when you do your insert or your read, you do it in a menu, and you call up methods from the menu in order for it to work, right? As opposed to what I'm doing here, right? But I want to show you each individual function on its own, and then you can kind of incorporate it into a menu later on if you like. All right, so we want to do some of this. So I think I'm just going to grab these 3 lines up here. So lines 19, 20, and 21. Grab these 3 lines so we have an introduction to what we're doing. Instead of reading a row of data, we're going to insert a row of data, right? That's one of the things we're going to do. We're also going to describe a new movie, right? Where we're going to do one of these. We're going to say it's going to be of type movie that we defined. And we're going to call this one, instead of a read movie, we're going to do an insert movie. That's where we're just going to call it something else, so that it doesn't clash with the other one, which is of new movie, right? That's what it's going to be. So it's a new object that looks like this, right? So first we kind of do, it's almost like, this is our Java bean. Think about this one as our container class that we're going to use, again, to connect with the database, right? Okay, now, if I start doing insert, so if I say something like, well, our insert movie by itself, after it's been instantiated, I can do something like this. And we can start using our input helpers now, right? So if I go insert movie dot, and if I go set name, right? And in our set name, this is where we're going to use our input helper in one line. We're going to say input helper, right, dot, and it's going to be get string, right? Because our get string is what we're going to use. And we're going to say something like, enter movie name, right? So enter movie name. And that's going to be our input string, right? So we're going to get a string for that. It's going to be, we're going to set the name based on what we get back from the input helper, which is going to be a type string, right? And we'll do the same thing for the other one. So insert movie dot set description, right? The description is kind of long, but that's okay. We're going to say input helper dot, again, it's going to be the same thing, get string, and we're going to say enter a description, right? So we got a description, and we'll say insert movie. Now this is the more of the challenging pieces, the set release date, right? So set release date, and we're looking for a release date. So now we're going to use our input. Remember, that's why we built our input helper, so it works. Input helper dot get date, right? Which we're going to say, kind of movie release date with. We'll give the user a little bit of feedback, right? So that way, I'm just going to make this a little larger so you guys can see. Where we ask for our format, right? Hopefully we'll get the right format back. And again, we're not doing any kind of validation right here. We're just kind of testing this out. So say movie release date, right? And inside of our string, we'll put in another bracket to kind of show what we were looking for, which is YYY, so year dash month dash day with another bracket, and then kind of a colon and that last piece, right? Make sure you have enough brackets, because remember, it looks like there's one bracket here. We're missing a bracket, so we need two, like this. Now notice how it's giving me a bit of an issue, right? Because it says here that there's an unhandled exception of type parse exception, right? So what it's asking me for is, well, I can throw a declaration. That's not going to help us, right? What I probably want to do is surround this thing with a try-catch, but I just don't want to just surround this one. I want to surround all of them. So let's just do that. We'll say surround with try-catch, but it's only going to surround the insert movie piece. Might as well have all of them in there. So I want to take these other pieces in there too, right? And put this over here. So there's our try-catch. And for our parse exception, right, it's not a SQL exception, so we're not going to use our dbconfig exception piece. We're just going to use our sys error, right? So we're going to say something like sys error, and the sys error is going to say, invalid input or something, right? Because you're trying to enter stuff in, right? And I don't know, maybe that won't be the right error, but let's just put that in there. Some kind of sys error to kind of give us a problem with our parse exception. We could also add a parse exception to the top of the class, but that doesn't make any sense, right? Because we don't want it to throw an exception. We want actually to stop bad input, right? All right, so we've got our date. Notice how dates always have been causing us issues, right? It's the worst one, I told you before. So insert movie dot, again, I'm going to get, instead of a release date, we're going to do a, what's the next one? Date, and then I think it's rating, right? Rating first, I think. So set rating. And the rating, of course, is going to be an input helper, right? Dot get double, right? Which is going to say enter a rating, right? And again, you can make these as descriptive as you want. We don't have a lot of space here, so I'm making them short. Insert movie dot says genre now, which is again is going to be of string. So we're going to say input helper dot get string, and we're going to say enter a genre. Maybe we'll make a movie genre, just a movie genre. There we go. So we got our inputs. Now what we want to do, right, is we know that going back to our movie list controller, our movie list controller here returns Boolean, right? So because it returns a Boolean, we have to make a Boolean to catch it, right? So we're going to have to kind of, receive the Boolean here. So we're going to say Boolean result, as an example, is equal to movie list controller, right, dot insert row, and we're going to pass in there our insert movie, right? Because that's the one we've been building this whole time, this one. Right? That's the one we're going to, now it wouldn't be called insert movie. At the end of the day, what you want it to be called is, you want it to be called something like, like movie, right? Now, why does it give me an error? It says, unhandled exception type exception, add throws declaration, add catch clause to the surrounding try, right? Add exception to existing catch, right? Because right now we have a parse exception. Why not just make it a general exception, right? Which should be able to catch everything that we have. So any kind of exception, whatever it's going to be, right? It's not a SQL exception. It's another type of exception. Might as well just catch the exception and put up, kind of show us what our exception is. We don't know what it's going to be, so we'll add plus exception right down here. That's our try catch. Now again, we're not finished with this. We're still talking in here, right? So we're saying, so after we get the Boolean result, if the result is true, right, which means we get it did everything correctly. If it's true, then what we want to say is something like, we want to print out like new row with primary key blank inserted, kind of thing, right? And how do we do that? We can say sys out, right? And we'll put that in. We'll say new row with primary key. Now, where would we get our primary key from? Remember, we made that. Well, we have an insert movie dot, get ID, right? Here's our get ID. We're getting that ID because it's going to be generated. Remember, as soon as we have our insert movie, right? Once we pass it into the Boolean result, our movie will be changed automatically. Because remember, when we pass it in to the movie list controller, we're passing it by reference, right? It's a reference type, not a value type. So when we pass it in, it's going to be changed. It'll have its own ID right away, right? So we don't have to kind of go in there and get the ID. It comes right from the get ID method of the model, right? All right. So once we've got that piece, right, we're going to say plus. So we're adding that in. Was inserted. So primary key. So new row with primary key blank blank, whatever it is, plus space, something like was inserted. Right, so we want to kind of show that this is the one that's been inserted, right? That's if it's a positive result. If it's a negative result, so let's say, if it didn't work out, then something happened, right? And we would have got exceptions all over the place, right? So we're going to kind of print out a system.error or whatever if it didn't work, right? Like invalid input or something like that. That's something that caused the exception, right? Now up till here, if I'm not wrong, because this is where this piece here is the main. If I hover over this one here is the exception. So this is where the end of insert happens. End of insert. And I kind of put this in there so we can know when to stop it. Okay, so we've got our database running. Here's my map. It's all ready to go. I always check to see if my requirements are there. And now it's time to test to see if it works. I'm going to save my file, save my program, and then run it. And then hopefully we'll see if it works, right? So here's our insert. So insert of a row of data. So enter the movie name. Well, let's get an actual movie name going. So we'll go into Rotten Tomatoes, right, as an example. And that's cool. We'll see another one. We'll see The Good Dinosaur. So that's a new one that kind of popped up over the last little while. It's a kids movie, The Good Dinosaur. And we've got some rating here, which is what, 76% is what I saw. Good Dinosaur, 76%, which is 3.5 out of 10. And there's some information about what the movie's about. Okay, so let's get this. So The Good Dinosaur is what it's called. I'm just, entering a real one. So The Good kind of Dinosaur, right? There it is. And description for it, we'll just grab right off the web. So this piece right here is going to grab this, copy and paste. There it is, and press enter. And then the release date, this is the trick. The release date's always the one that kills us. So 2015, 11/25 is how we have to answer it in. So 2015-11-25. It has to be dashes. The way I asked for it is the way you have to enter it. If you enter it that way, it's a problem. In your UI, you could create a date picker, right, that does it all for you. So all the pieces are there for you. Enter. Enter a rating. So 3.5. Enter the movie genre, animation, right? And then press enter. If I do that, it says new row with primary key 13 was inserted. Okay. Let's take a look and see if that was right. So I'm going to go back to my my local host here and refresh. And I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Doesn't have 12 because I deleted 12, remember, back earlier. And I have 13, The Good Dinosaur, with the description, the date, the rating, and the genre. So I always try and check after I've done my insert or delete or whatever I'm doing. I always check with the database side, especially when I'm developing like this, to see that it worked. What actually you're supposed to do, it gave me a positive message, but it actually did work. Like, if it didn't work, we have a problem. Okay, let's try and error out. So again, I have two cases. One where it works, and then another one when I try it again, and then I error out. So see if it causes a problem on that date, as an example. So play it again. So enter a new movie. We're going to call it test movie name. The test movie, right? And the description is going to be here is a test description, because we're not going to actually do anything here. And then the date we're going to mess up. We're going to say 201 01 F. So it's going to say invalid input, and there's our errors, which is java.text parse exception, unparsable date, because you can't parse that date because that's the parse exception we're going to get because of the input we got. So it didn't crash us. we got that invalid input that I've actually asked for, which is right here. This is our invalid input, which we're getting the exception. So we're actually getting this exception formatted in the way we want. We can format that further, but right now our insertion works, right? So remember, insert is actually, or it's actually physically creating. It's the create piece, right? We don't say create necessarily. It does create the new row, which is part of CRUD, right? So create, right? Read, we've already got. We need update and delete. Let's try the update and delete. So first, before we do that, because I know I've typed very fast and I talk very fast, I'm going to update GitHub. So I'm going to go here to GitHub. I'm going to go to team. I'm going to go to commit, and I'm going to say updated, movie list controller class added. Actually, no, it's not the movie list controller. We updated my program because I already did this one. My program, driver class added insert input logic. There we go. Commit and push. You've got all that piece there. Questions so far with what I did here? So in the read, here's the difference with the read. The read is very straightforward. Whenever we read data, all we're doing here is we're using the ID that we're reading to basically filter on the row, right? That's what we're doing. So we're sending that ID, as we said, in the movie controller. Look at the movie controller for the read. It's actually quite straightforward. We're listening for a particular row, right? Because we're getting one row. If we're getting all rows, remember then our SQL statement is going to be different. It's going to be, it's going to be this one. It's going to be select statement, that star from movie list, all from movie list, right? In the read get row, it's going to be our SQL query is going to be select star from movie list where ID is equal to whatever the ID number is. When we do an insertion, right, we're going to be insert into movie list. We're going to use the insert value, and then a list of columns we're going to add in and their values. Now, normally you can type these values in manually if you want to, or you can use these question marks as placeholders where we can use, that's why we use our prepared statement in order for us to do that, to insert, different data. Okay, so we've got some pieces of what we want to do. Let's do the next one, which is going to be our update. Okay. Any questions so far? I mean, we're just chugging along here to kind of get all the pieces of the create, read, update, delete done. But this is what we do. We set up these pieces in the beginning when we create our application, and then we can use these same pieces even in a UI app, right? Where we use the same create, read, update, delete stuff where we output to a UI. And maybe if we have time, we'll try and build something simple today. Right? I don't think we'll have time. All right, so again, we're going to type it in. So public, static. Again, it's going to be of type Boolean, this new one we're going to make, and we're going to call it, kind of an update row, because that's what the update's going to be. And of course, if we're going to do an update, we're going to pass in the whole movie itself to do the update, because we can update any part of it, right? So we're going to say movie. We're going to pass in of type movie, which is going to throw us some kind of exception, right? Just like we did last time. So this is our update function, right? Or method. Again, our SQL query is going to be a little different than last time, where we're going to do, instead of an insert or a select, we're going to do an update. So we're going to say update, movie list, and we're going to set, this is a very important piece, we're going to set, type it in here so you can see it, the name is equal to a question mark, right? The description is equal to question mark. The release date is equal to question mark. You see the pattern, right? Rating is equal to question mark. And genre is also equal to question mark, right? So that's part of it. We're also going to do a plus, and we're going to add some more stuff. So then, after we added all those changes, on the bottom we're going to say where ID is equal to question mark. Okay, so we're going to read the movie list, the movie bean, if you will, the Java bean, and then from there we're going to decide, we're going to get the information and interpolate in these placeholders what we're going to the new select statement. So think about it this way: everything we've done so far is based off of a query. We keep on doing a new query, and we're using different techniques to do the same thing. Okay, this is going to feel familiar for you because we've done this. We're going to do this 2 more times. We're going to do this one and 1 more, and then you're going to be sick of me doing these extended tries, right? Because now the extended try comes into play. Thank you. That would be a problem. Well, it would be good to see the error, right? But anyways, it's okay. It's good that you caught it. All right, so we're going to create a extended try or a reference try, if you will. Different names to this call. So we're going to say try. Again, we're going to set up all of our. I like to try and do it ahead of time to set up all of our structure, and we're going to do a catch, right? Where we're going to catch a again, it's going to be an exception, a general exception that we're going to catch with type exception. And there's our catch. And we're going to need, I believe we need a finally here as well. Do we? No. We don't need a finally because we're not closing, we're not opening anything else outside of our extended try. Right? Okay, so inside of this extended try piece right here, what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to say connection. And this is where Aaron was saying, can we use a connection that we're sharing? Yes, you can. I'm not going to create that class for you. If you read the book, it gives you an example of that. Config.getConnection, right? Where we're going to connect. That's our connection for our database, right? With a username, password, and the database string, right? That's where it comes from. Again, to recant. And then what we're going to say here is the prepared statement again, right? Is a statement. And we need a prepared statement because we're going to be using this interpolation that we're going to be doing, right? Connection dot prepare statement, and we're going to pass in our SQL query. Now you're going to call it SQL string, SQL query. It's just where the SQL statement's going to be, right? All right, so I mean that's kind of our extended try, if you will, right? That means a connection. Notice how we don't have a result set. Why don't I have a result set in my update? Doesn't return anything. I'm not reading anything, so I don't have a result set. I'm actually writing again, right? So, and I know which one I'm targeting. I'm targeting a specific row, right? So let's go back here and let's check this out. So I'm going to say, well then, statement dot set string. We're going to set string, and it's going to be the first parameter. Remember, the first parameter is the first one, and it's going to be our movie, right? Dot get name that we're going to use. Get name. Movie dot get name. There we go. Because get name, we're going to get the name from our movie, right? And now, why would I do it this way? How would you see the program file is going to be on our program side? When we enter the input, we're going to get all the input for the update. We're going to actually change something in the update, right? From our program, whatever we decide to update, and we're probably going to update something simple like a rating or something like that. Okay, so let's go back here. So statement set string. And we will put in the ability for us to update everything, but we don't need to update everything. We just need to update the column that we want. So set string again, because we're going to update the movie dot get description, right? Oops, the wrong one. Let's try that again. So it's going to be parameter 2, and then movie dot set description. There we go, which is our description, whatever the description is going to be. Not set description, get description. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to have to pull for one. And we're just going to keep doing this. I'm just going to keep typing here so you see what it is. So set date. Again, setting the date would be very challenging to do because of we'd have to make sure we read everything properly. We do have a read input helper for that, right? But being movie.getReleaseDate. And same thing with this one, statement dot set rating. Don't I have a set rating? Set double. I'll be okay. For, and then it's movie.getRating. And then statements dot set string again to 5, and then it's movie dot get genre. So that's how we're building up our statement. So our statement's being built up because we're setting the statement. This statement here that we've kind of created here. We're setting up the statement based on the way we're going to execute it afterwards, right? And now for the my last trick, statement dot set int, right? Because we're going to set this last, which is going to be number 6, which would be this one here. This is the 6th placeholder down here. That's going to be our movie.getID. And we're doing it last because remember some of this, I mean, certainly, you can certainly do it first. It doesn't matter. It's just the way I've typed everything, right? So you should probably do it in order, right? So that's why it's easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that's why I've typed it. I've typed it in that way. You don't have to. You can make 6, 3, 1, 2, and build your string that way. All we're doing is we're building up our statement by using a prepared statement object. Okay, so we've got our statement, and now again we're going to check to see if any rows are affected, right? So we're going to say int affected, just like we did last time, is equal to, here's what we're going to do it once, statement dot execute update, right? So that's going to update whatever we have, whatever we've written in here, whatever we set the statement to. As an example, we're going to execute the update based on the statement information. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now we're going to get an integer, and we're going to check to see if only one row was affected. If exactly one row was affected, we got a good update. If it's something else happens, we got a problem. So if affected is exactly equal to 1, right? Now there's different ways of doing this, of course. We're going to return true. Otherwise, else, we can return false, right? That's what we could do. Okay, and that's really our update string in a nutshell. Our catch exception, because it's what kind of exception will we get from this kind of thing? And chances are it's not going to just be a generic exception, right? Because notice how it says add a return statement. Well, we have a return statement here, right? Return. But inside of our catch, we also should have a return that's false, right? Because if something goes wrong with our exception, then we should return false. And now notice how we're throwing an exception, so we can capture it there. But chances are what I really want to do down here, just like we did in our insert row, which is up here, is a SQL exception. That's probably what I want to do. It's probably the right thing to do for this one, and because we want to kind of bang out why it failed, right? So instead of exception, let's change this to SQL exception. And in here, we might as well use our db config. So db config dot display exception of type exception. So kind of break out our exception a little bit more. And that's really the end of update, right? So this is end of update. That's our update right there. I don't know if it's there or maybe there. So hold on a second. Here, let's put this in the right place. Yay. Make sense? So again, it's yep. Update one row. Uh-oh. What did we do? You silly man, Tom. Did I put one in the other? That's why it's important to check. I always like to check stuff out. That if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it's for, right? It's part of update one row. So I put one on the other. Let me see if this one is here. So we're going to have an error if you don't do it right. And of course, the way to do that is to remove all the pieces, because this would be the class. It's the movie list class. So we're missing one piece here. So where does this end? Right, this piece here. And notice how this one has, that's why I like these curly braces drive me crazy sometimes. Right? This is where that is. This piece, that's the try. To there, this to there, and then we don't have another one. So we do need one, which would be here. Now, if we have an error, don't worry, because what we need to do is do one of these. Right? We'll just cut this up for a second. Because this end of update one, right, should be the one that kind of closes this one up, right? Because there's a, for this big one right here, this one, it's got to go somewhere, right? And that's this one. So that's really, this one here is end of insert one row. End of insert one row. And then underneath here, we're going to put in our update, which is here. And what I do is I collapse them to make it easier for us to see it, right? But sometimes collapsing them can be a problem. It's okay, we can always take it off. Now, one of them is insert one row, like this one should be insert of one row. This is bad, right? See? Update one row. Yeah, well, one of them is. Let's get rid of this. So that's probably the method itself right there. Right, because this would be the class, right? So one of them is the class, one of them. So if I get rid of the last one, if there's an error, it'll error out. So this is the class itself right here. So this is the end of the class, which would be the movie list controller class. I'm just going to copy it. Go to the bottom. And I should have done that in the first place, because otherwise, and I'll keep delete one row because we haven't done that yet, which is going to go here. We haven't done our delete yet. And this would be the end of insert, right? Or is it update? Update. End of update. Okay, so we've done this piece. I'm just going to collapse it to show that it's there. So there it is. If it wouldn't collapse, then we know it's a problem, right? So we've got our insert, that piece, but we really need to add in the logic in the program, the driver class, to do it. So let me go over that with you to see what I've done, to show you what I've done here. So again, we're taking in a whole movie object for the update, right? And then what's going to happen is we're going to interpolate the stuff that we have in here. So again, we build out our controller, and we got to think, when we load up the movie that's inbound, this movie has to have all the logic, all the information we need that we're going to update. Okay. So there's some things we can do in order for us to check that that's done right. Again, notice we're not using a result set in this case, right? We're not doing that. We're not reading from the database. We're only updating the database. You could do a series of reads and updates at the same time. For example, let's say in a real life situation, you probably want to load up your row first to show what the row is in a form, right? And then you go into that particular form element, you update it, and you click update. That's how it should really function. In this particular case, we're using a console application. I'm not asking for the read, but you certainly could. All right, so let's see how would we build out our driver class for this one. Okay, so now we've done our read, we've done our insert. I'm just going to comment this one out as well, so you can have them. And again, all I'm trying to do here is give you guys all the pieces you need, so you can do your assignment. Right? That's the whole idea. So let's add the new one. The new piece is going to be our update, right? And for our update, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab these first three rows right here. Oops. And I'm going to put them down here. So underneath our updates. And instead of insert a row of data, we're going to update a row of data. Okay. So how will we start off? Well, we want to get our select a row to update. So what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to have an integer that's going to be our movie ID, right? Now, remember, we don't have a movie ID, but you have to watch what it is. I'm just going to call it movie ID for now. Right? I don't think there's another one like that. Where we're going to use our input helper, right? Dot get integer, and we're going to prompt for select a row to update. Select a row to update. So we don't know what row it's going to be because again we haven't kind of printed out the row or anything like that. So that the input helper is going to get the row for us, the number, whatever the person enters, right? So get a row to update. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say movie, and we're going to call this the update movie. So so they're all different names. So we can, if we want to turn everything on, we can later on, right? And our update movie is going to be, of course, a new movie list controller, right? Dot get row. This is where we actually use the get row that already exists there. So we're actually going to get the row, and we're going to put in based on our movie ID. So movie ID. Depending on what this is. So we're actually using the get row method that we already wrote, which is over here. We're going to use the get row method to update because that makes sense. But like I said, we're going to read it first and then update the actual values, right? So we're going to get row from the movie, and we're going to load it into this update movie object. It's going to have all the row information from the original object, which is what I would do, right? If I was going to build it. Okay, cool. Now that we've got that, if my update is null, so if I say, we're going to check this. If our update movie, right, is equal to null, that means something went wrong. We didn't return anything, right? And that can happen because maybe sys error. Maybe what we're going to have is row not found, right? That's possible. Maybe the guy entered or the user entered a row that doesn't exist. So that can happen, right? So that's possible. Row not found. And what we're going to do here is we're going to return, right? If, however, everything is good, kind of thing, we're going to continue, and we're going to say something like this: double. We're going to declare an update. Let's update our rating. So we're going to say update rating then, right, is equal to input helper, right, dot get double. That's what it's going to say. And we're going to say enter a new movie rating. Now you can update the whole movie. We're just going to update one piece of it, right? Make sense? So we're just going to update the rating of the movie. Because if I was going to enter something like the date, the movie, well, it's too much work, right? So we don't have time for that. So you can certainly update any aspect of it, like the name and the rating, if you wanted to. But maybe the rating changed, so I'm going to update that, right? So after you've got that, after you got the update, we're going to do something like this: update movie, right? Dot set rating. We're going to use our setter for the update movie, and we're going to put in the update rating in there, whatever the update is. We're going to update the movie information. So we're going to do all the actual updating, everything else outside of my class, because I don't need to do it in there. My movie object, before I send it into my update, is ready. It's ready to go. I'm already manipulating it here outside, right? So I've manipulated my data first, just like we normally would do for your and what I've done here is I've programmed an interface for you guys so you can use it in your UI, because that's what you would really do in your UI. You'd fix your UI first, get all the information you want to update, read the stuff in first in your UI, show it. He can update something, whatever he updates or she updates, the user. You're going to take it, update the actual movie object, and then send it into the update function of your controller, right? Okay, so let's go back. So we update movie, and once we do that, we're going to do. This is where we're going to have our challenge, right? We're going to say, well, if movie list controller, right? If my movie list controller dot update is true, where we send in the update movie, right? If it's true, Then we're going to say sysout something like row, and then the movie ID, right? Plus was successfully updated, right? Row was successfully updated, right? Because we want to kind of show some feedback to the user that says everything's good, right? And we get a problem again, right? What's the problem? Well, it says you're going to have a problem with this potential when we use it, the update method, that you're going to have we can surround it with a try catch, or we can add a throws declaration. Now we already have a throws declaration to the whole thing. It kind of throws a SQL exception. We could just change this to fix it to an exception, but I want to surround this with a try catch, like I've done with every other one, right? So let's just do that. So I'm going to go here and surround with try catch. There it is. And in our try catch statement, what we want to do something is, and again, what kind of error we'd be getting? A kind of a standardized error, right? So we want to do kind of our sys error, where the error is the exception, right? Which is this is going to be called. I hate the E. I don't like calling it E. I like calling it exception, so I know what it is, right? Now everyone's different. Some people don't care about that. I do, right? So catch exception, and we're going to print out the exception, whatever we get from there. And we can poll for it. If we see enough exceptions that are SQL exceptions, we can eventually change it to give us more data, if that's what the exception we get. Okay, that's it, right? So again, this is the end of update on this side. So there's two updates, right? There's two pieces of it. One is the actual class, the movie list controller class that performs the processing of the update, right? And then the other piece is in our view. This is what we're doing here. These are our views here. Think about this as like each one of these pieces here in our driver class. All this logic here isn't part of our controller, but rather it's part of our view logic, right? So think about this having our form that gets this information, gets the data, the update, whatever you want to update, and then once the form is complete, we send it to get processed in the movie list controller. That's what's happening. Okay, let's test this thing out and see if it works, and then we'll update GitHub. So run it. It says update a row of data. Select a row to update. Well, we just entered row number 13, so let's choose 13. Does it exist, the row 13? Enter a movie rating, right? Well, I want to update my movie rating from 3.5. Let's say we really like, the Good Dinosaur. We'll update it to 4, right? And press enter. Row 13 was successfully updated, right? Why does it say row 13? Because it's not really row 13. It's actually ID 13. That's what's really updated. That's what we should have said. If I go here and check it, and if I refresh, notice how right now it says 3.5. If I refresh this and go down, now it says 4. So we see our update's been successful, right? So it works. We know we've tested it. Let's make it fail. I always like trying to do both things, right? So we'll press play here, and we'll say, let's choose an update to a row to update. Let's say update 14. Well, 14 doesn't exist. Press enter. It says row not found. Right, so that's good. And how about we update something that's incorrect? So we do it again, but instead of doing an update, we choose row 13. But instead of entering a movie rating, we enter F, and then get an exception back. So that is an unhandled exception. So we can go through that's part of our input helper problem that I talked about before. We don't have any validation in our input helper. Okay? So those are some possibilities. So again, we would test our program out a little bit. Questions so far about update? So we just did update. We finished off insert or create. We just did update. Now we're going to finally do delete, and then it's going to be over. Right? We're going to get it done. And we're going to talk about how do I incorporate this stuff with our Java effects? What kind of objects or how do I incorporate that? So for now, let's just go here, and I'm going to go into a team, and we're going to go to commit, and I'm going to update my my class. I'm going to say updated movie list controller class added update method. Right? Commit and push. There we go. All right, cool. So we've done our update. The only one that's left is delete. So the delete shouldn't be so difficult. So maybe you guys can guess what it's going to be like. How about you guys help me out? Let's build delete together. How do you think we're going to start when we do our delete? Any ideas? Come on, guys. It's a Boolean. It's either deleted or not, right? Yeah. If it's deleted, right, then we're going to get a Boolean that says true. If it's not deleted, it's going to return false, right? So that's the first thing. So this is where we're going to enter this information. So let's go back into our controller. And now we're going to delete one row. So we're going to go public, static, just like we did before, Boolean. Let's just call this delete row. So delete row. And what are we going to take in? Are we going to take the row for the deletion, or are we going to take the whole movie? What would you say? Makes sense, right? That we'd only need the ID. So we're going to say integer ID is all we would need, the ID of the movie. It's going to throw an exception, because we know that they all throw exceptions, right? And in here, what we want to try and do is do the same thing we did before. We need a query string. So let's just try this out. So string, and we're going to call this SQL query, or you can call this SQL string, same thing. And now, what is it going to look like? What does it have to have in it? Delete, right? Because that's our thing. Delete from movie list, right? And it's going to be where ID is equal to question mark. So we know we need a prepared statement. Okay, we can't use a just a regular statement, because we have to interpolate. Once we do any kind of string interpolation, where we use a placeholder for information, we need a prepared statement. Okay? And I kind of showed you a bunch of examples on how to do that. So let's try this. So try, we're going to do the extended try again, or the enhanced try, or the resource try. Different ways of saying that, with a catch. And we're going to catch, again, a SQL exception. That makes sense. So SQL. We're going to call this exception. And in this particular case, we don't need any kind of, we're not going to need, our finally, because you're going to see how easy this one is to do, right? So in our try enhanced try, and the try block itself, the head of the try, if you will, we still need a connection. So let's put the connection string into connection. You should know this already. Is equal to db config dot get connection. There we go. We made our connection, and now we need a prepared statement. Prepared. I love it. Prepared. I hope we spell it properly. Prepared statement is a statement is equal to connection dot prepare statement, our SQL query. We're just sending in the query string itself. Good. We're getting that now. And now in here, it's pretty simple. Statement dot setInt of our first parameter, the first one, is going to be ID. The ID that we get from our, it's not set string, it's setInt. Set integer. Here we go. Getting all kinds of people dinging me too. Oh, la 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 la. Okay, yeah. So once we've got that, then we're going to do this. We're going to do the same thing with the affected trick. So int affected. We're going to say how many rows are affected, which is we're going to send in the statement dot execute update, right? Execute update. So we're going to get a number back, how many rows we affected, right? And in there, we're going to say if affected is exactly equal to 1, then we know we've updated one row, right? Then we're going to return true, right? And by the way, I want to kind of do a little bit of refactoring in a second. Else return false, right? In our SQL exception, we might as well use our db config dot display exception, passing in the exception. And when we have an exception problem, we always want to return false, because we have that situation where we return false. So that's going to fix up our row. So again, nothing you haven't seen before. Every one of them are identical, pretty much, the form. Some of them you need a result set when you read, right? At the end of the day, if you're not reading, you don't need a result set. If you're only updating or deleting or inserting, right, then you don't need a result set. You only need them for those. Okay, cool. So we've done this piece. Let us check it out on the driver's side. And what do we need for the driver's side? So save this, and we'll just collapse this. We don't see it anymore. So this is our completed. This is what our completed controller would look like. Take a look. These are the 5 methods that we've added in. The read, our one row, insert one row, update one row, delete one row, right? And now in our program, let us comment out the update so we can see what the delete will look like. So here it is. Again, you wouldn't comment this out. This is our test, kind of our test pattern, right? And what you want to do here is you want to start tapping in the same thing we did last time, which is coming up to here, grabbing all this. Shouldn't stop, eh? That's what happens when you have an X. Okay, and in here we're going to say delete. Right, here's a delete pattern where we're going to say delete a row of data. Right, it's pretty straightforward stuff. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to say something like this. We're going to say int then delete ID, right, is equal to what? Help me out, guys. What do I write now? I want to get value from the data from the user. What do I use? Input helper dot get integer, right, which is going to say select a row to delete, right? Okay, and then so we get the row from the number, whatever the number is that they're entering, and now we're going to do something like this. We're going to say if movie list controller, right, dot delete, and the delete ID, which is this one. If that's true, that if we get a true value for that, then we want to do a sysout that says something like row plus, and then deleted ID, delete ID plus was deleted, successfully deleted. Again, successfully deleted. And we've got a bit of a problem. What's the problem? Oh, here's the else. We should have an else too, right? What if there's no row? So we're going to have a, kind of a sys error, right? That says something like, nothing to delete, right? Trying to delete something that doesn't exist, let's say. Okay, but I still have a problem. What do I have a problem with? It says add throws declaration or try catch. We want to add a try catch around everything. Might as well, like we already did. And again, this would be a regular exception now. It wouldn't be a SQL exception because it's going to be an exception based on our entry. So we can just do another sys error. Let's get rid of this piece where we do a sys error here. And kind of something like an incorrect row or something weird that happened to get an exception. It's an input exception again, right? So we're going to say I don't know, let's just pump out the exception for now. And we're going to change this one to exception 2. Yay. Okay, that's the end of the delete, right? And delete. So we've got our delete. We have to check it. Now let's delete the last one. We just inputted our Good Dinosaur. We don't like it anymore. We want to leave it. We want to make it move from the database, right? So here's the database. First, let's save everything. So we save this. We're going to save this. We're going to check out our delete. We're going to delete the whole row, right? So we'll go back into our database. Notice how we have the Good Dinosaur, number 13. We're going to get rid of it, right? So how do we get rid of it? Run the program. So we're going to run. Delete a row of data. Select the row to delete. We know it's number 13, right? Because that's the one. Enter. Row 13 was successfully deleted. We're good. Let's check and see if it's gone, right? So we're going to go over here and refresh our data, and the Good Dinosaur, she's now, into a tar pit somewhere. She's dead, right? Doesn't exist. Been deleted. So we've successfully deleted a row. So we've done everything. Delete, update, read, create. We've done all that stuff. We've done the full CRUD. And this is what I want to get you to today, because if we can't get full CRUD done, then you won't be able to do your code. There are some pieces that we're missing, and we're going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about them after the break, because I'm going to go over the PowerPoint presentation quickly to make sure we capture some of those pieces that I already have. And then I'm going to upload the PowerPoint presentation up on eCentennial during the break. Okay, so let's update GitHub. That's important to do, because I know people are going to need this for their project, their assignment, right? So I'm going to say commit, and yes, we'll save everything, and we'll say updated movie list controller class added delete method, and commit and push. Good. Now the code might seem a little bit nutty to you if you've never seen it before, but you guys should all have seen some kind of database up until now. This is not the first database you're looking at, hopefully, right? So we're good. We've got everything. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to go over the PowerPoint presentation for you so that you have, we've hit all the pieces. Now there's some different things they do in the PowerPoint than I've done. And I want to talk about those pieces, the ones that I'm going to test you on the exam, and the ones that I won't, right? So you know where to study. Okay. And then to go here, stop the broadcast.